the benefits that you get from doing that emotional work and exiting your comfort zone and learning to stay present and learning not to self-abandon will not only help you be on the career path of your dreams, but they will help you become the person of your dreams. They help you become a person who is confident, not because they get it right all the time, not because they have the answer every single time, not because they're 100% prepared every single time, but because they know how to stay strong and solid every single time.
Welcome to The Art of Speaking Up, a podcast that helps professional women access the limitless potential that lies within them. I'm your host, Jessica Guzik, and my mission is to help you find that spark inside you that has the power to transform your career in ways you may not have thought possible. I'm so excited that you're here. And now, on to the show.
Welcome to the Art of Speaking Up podcast. Today's episode is a deep dive into one of the biggest topics that I help my clients with, and that is the topic of learning to confidently speak up and share your perspective at work, even when your boss is in the room, even when there are leaders in the room. If you are wanting to really own the spaces you're in and have a voice that really reflects that inner confidence, today's episode is for you. Something that I see a lot and that you are certainly not alone in experiencing, if this applies to you, is that despite your desire to feel strong and confident and self-expressed in these rooms and conversations at work, you find yourself feeling intimidated. You find yourself not speaking up, even though you know you want to be contributing and you want to be making an impact. Maybe when you do speak up, you're not articulating yourself in that smooth, strong, confident way that you had hoped for. All of these experiences are normal. And in today's episode, I'm going to be teaching you why this happens. And more importantly, I'm going to teach you how to build the type of confidence you need to walk into these rooms feeling solid about yourself and your voice, and to be able to hold your own and contribute confidently, even in rooms where you're surrounded by people who have more years of experience than you. And the way that you're going to do this is you're going to pivot from building what I call performance-based confidence to building resilience-based confidence. Not all forms of confidence are the same. There are some forms of self-confidence that are a bit more fragile and that will sometimes crumble under pressure. And there are other forms of confidence that are more durable and more resilient and that can handle a greater amount of pressure. And if you're struggling to feel confident and find your voice in these rooms at work, it could be because you've been building what I call performance-based confidence. Performance-based confidence tends to have you struggling under pressure. Resilience-based confidence is a form of confidence that is deeper and more rooted and more lasting and will help you feel strong, confident, and capable even in rooms that used to intimidate you. So in today's episode, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to teach you how to pivot away from performance-based confidence and towards resilience-based confidence. I'm going to start with the definition of performance-based confidence, and I'm going to help you self-diagnose if you have been building performance-based confidence. Now, before I even get into that, I just want to caveat, there's nothing wrong with performance-based confidence. It's not a bad thing. It just has limits. It can only get us so far. So I don't want you to guilt yourself or judge yourself or shame or blame yourself as you're listening to this. I want you to think of performance-based confidence as being like beginner level confidence. And then I want you to think of resilience-based confidence as being more intermediate or advanced level confidence. And so with that being said, let's start with the definition. Performance-based confidence is confidence that grows as a result of you watching yourself successfully take action. So you watch yourself speak up in a room, you watch yourself successfully lead a meeting, you watch yourself do something, you watch yourself do that thing well, and you think to yourself, wow, I just performed in the way that I wanted to. That makes me feel confident. At its core, performance-based confidence stems from your belief in your competence and your ability to show up and perform in a specific way. Here are some signs that you have been building performance-based confidence. The first telltale sign is that your goal is to do things well. When you think about your goal of having a confident voice, the way you conceptualize it is, I want to speak up effectively. I want to do this well. That is how I'm going to know that I am confident. Another sign that you're building performance-based confidence is you have a big focus on readiness and preparedness. You want to have the answers. You want your prep to be airtight. You want to have subject matter expertise. Another sign that you're building performance-based confidence is that you feel a desire to demonstrate your competence both to yourself and to others. So if you are a yes to many of these factors, chances are that the confidence that you've been working on building is performance-based confidence. There's nothing bad or wrong with performance-based confidence. It's one of the foundational ways that we grow. However, performance-based confidence has a ceiling. It can only get you so far, both in life and in your career. With performance-based confidence, because it comes from viewing yourself as competent and knowing that you can successfully perform, it will increase or decrease depending on the level of competence and preparedness that you feel in any given situation. When you feel competent and you feel prepared and you feel like you have the answers and you know what you're doing, you will feel confident in those situations. But in situations where you don't have a high level of competence, or you don't have all the answers, or you're not 100% sure what you're doing, you won't feel confident in those situations. You will experience a lack of confidence. And what this can lead to is a situation where your confidence starts to shrink or collapse as you move into higher and higher leadership roles. Here's why. As a leader, you are expected to be confident always. You're expected to be able to be a confident voice in the room, whether you have the answers or not, whether you've done this type of project before or not, whether you have the perfect knowledge base or not. As a leader, the expectation for the amount of ambiguity that you can handle and for the level of leadership that you can bring into rooms where there is ambiguity, those expectations are much, much higher. You're expected to make decisions even when you don't have perfect information. You're expected to speak in meetings even when you don't have complete subject matter expertise. You're expected to lead in the room even if you haven't done this exact type of project before. Now, the issue is, if you've been building performance-based confidence, you've only learned how to feel confident when you have the competence and the answers, which means that when you're in these higher level leadership situations, that confidence is gone. And in its place, you might experience worry or anxiety or imposter syndrome. And all of those feelings are preventing you from having that confident, powerful voice in these more challenging situations. The reason this is happening isn't because something's wrong with you. It's not because you're not capable of having a voice. It's not because something's wrong with your personality. It's probably because you've been building performance-based confidence which helps you when you're an individual contributor, and it even helps you in middle management. But there's a certain point where you hit that ceiling, and performance-based confidence isn't enough to help you feel confident and have a powerful voice in the room, because now you are expected to be a thought leader. Now you are expected to be able to hold your own in any room and any meeting and any conversation, not just the easier ones and not just the ones where you have deep expertise and a very long history of prior experience. And this brings me to one of the most important topics of today's episode, which is this. If you want to keep growing as a leader, and if you want to be able to have a voice in any room, not just the easier rooms, then you're going to want to pivot from building performance-based confidence to building resilience-based confidence. Resilience-based confidence is where you build confidence not because of your competence and your knowledge, but because of your psychological and emotional strength. So if we compare the two types of confidence, performance-based confidence gets built when you watch yourself being competent, whereas resilience-based confidence gets built when you watch yourself being psychologically and emotionally strong. So instead of us having an experience of, oh, I did a thing perfectly and now I feel confident, you have an experience of, oh, that was really hard and I had to demonstrate a ton of emotional and psychological strength to get through it. Damn, I'm a badass. I feel really confident. Now, what's important about resilience-based confidence is that someone who has it can handle bigger, broader things than someone who only has performance-based confidence. Someone who's got resilience-based confidence can handle stressful situations and difficult projects, and they can speak up even in rooms that are intimidating. They can hold their own in the room even when they get asked a hard question, or even when they're not fully prepared for where the conversation goes, because their confidence isn't dependent on how competent or prepared they are. Their confidence is dependent on how psychologically and emotionally strong they are, which is completely separate and independent from the question of, do I have all the answers? Do I have what I need to get this perfect? The beautiful thing about psychological and emotional strength is that they're not contingent on us showing up perfect and having all the knowledge. Psychological and emotional strength is something that we can experience whether we're competent or not, whether we're performing perfectly or not. And this is why resilience-based confidence is inherently more flexible and can last and help you feel confident through a much wider variety of situations, because it is not dependent on the very specific circumstance of you having the competence and answers. It's dependent on your psychological and emotional state, which can be strong and solid even when you don't have the answers. People with resilience-based confidence are more valuable to a company and more likely to get promoted into leadership because they are able to handle harder situations and therefore have bigger impact. I want to contrast that with performance-based confidence. People with performance-based confidence may struggle to stand out in an organization because if you have performance-based confidence, you haven't learned how to be impressive and outspoken and assertive and decisive in situations where you're not a total expert. You can only be impressive and decisive in situations where you have all the answers and all of the competence. But to really stand out as a leader, you have to show people that you can be impressive and you can be outspoken and you can be decisive, even in situations where you are not perfect, even in situations where you don't have all the competence and you don't have all the answers. And so the name of the game, if you want to get recognized as a leader and you want to build a standout reputation and you want to have big impact, is you want to pivot from building that performance-based confidence to building resilience-based confidence. That is what is ultimately going to help you show up in a much bigger way, because you will be able to handle hard questions, difficult rooms, getting caught off guard, having more challenging conversations, you will basically be able to weather the ups and downs that are required of a leader. This is one of the primary reasons that I teach resilience-based confidence inside of my program, is because this is the type of confidence that will help you get noticed as a leader and help you have that bigger impact that shows your company that you are ready to take on greater leadership. So with that said, I want to pivot and talk about how to build resilience-based confidence. The first bucket that I want to talk about are the specific psychological capacities that you have to build in order to grow your resilience-based confidence. These are psychological capacities that I work with my clients to build, and there are two big ones. The first psychological capacity that you have to work on building is you have to be able to have an experience of being quote unquote incompetent without mentally and psychologically collapsing. So let me break down exactly what I mean by this. When I say that you have to have an experience of quote unquote incompetence, what I mean is you have to be able to be in rooms and situations where people are talking about a topic that you don't understand, or people are asking questions that don't make sense to you, or you are being asked a question that doesn't totally make sense to you. You basically have to be in rooms where you are out of your depth. You have reached the edges of your expertise, and you are now having a feeling of, I don't know. I don't understand. I don't have the answer. This doesn't make sense to me. This isn't familiar to me. You have to be able to be in situations like that and not collapse internally. Now, what do I mean when I say collapse internally? When I say that, what I mean is you lose your ability to move through the situation with intention and think clearly about what you want to do next. So some examples of how that might show up is you might feel frozen. You might just feel totally stuck, like your brain shuts down and it's not working anymore. You might feel overwhelmed and it becomes hard to focus. You might go into very excessive thinking, like going in circles in your head and not actually focusing on the conversation. These are all responses that prevent you from being able to engage with the conversation and from being able to speak up and lead and contribute. And if you want to build resilience-based confidence, one ability that you have to build is you have to be able to hold that feeling of incompetence and still stay present in the room, stay present in your body, stay mentally agile. You have to be able to do both at once. And a lot of times people get really stuck because they just keep going back to this model of performance-based confidence. And they think to themselves, oh my gosh, I get so overwhelmed when I'm out of my element, when I don't have the answers. I get overwhelmed, I freeze, I shut down. And then what happens is they think to themselves, and you might get stuck in this pattern. You think, okay, I need to make sure this doesn't happen. I need to make sure I have the answers. I need to prepare more. I need to think of what questions people would ask. I need to get more background information. And you think that the solution to this problem is to gather all the information and keep preparing so that you can prevent yourself from feeling that feeling of incompetence. The problem with this is that this is an impossible goal if you want to be a leader. If you want to be a leader, your company needs you to be someone who can be thrown into rooms and situations and go figure it out and solve it. They're not looking for someone who can only thrive if they're prepared and if they have the answers. So you're going to be put in situations where perfect preparation and perfect competence is inherently impossible due to the nature and setup of the situation. So if you keep trying to get out of this struggle by just preparing your way out of it, you won't be able to. Instead, what you need to do is you need to learn to hold and be with the feeling of incompetence. You have to have a more agile relationship with the feeling of, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing in this room. You have to be able to have that feeling. And instead of shutting down, you have to be able to say, okay, let me get present and let me figure this out. So that is the first psychological muscle that you have to build. Now, the second psychological muscle that you have to build is related, but it's a little bit different. This is the muscle of when you have that feeling of incompetence, you don't self-abandon. So self-abandonment is when you emotionally abandon yourself. And what this looks like is turning against yourself as if you are your own enemy in that situation. So some specific examples of this could be judging yourself, shaming yourself, blaming yourself, criticizing yourself. These are all ways of abandoning yourself because you are having an experience of incompetence. You're in the room, the conversation is going in a difficult direction. You start to think to yourself, I'm not prepared, I don't have the answers. And then you go into the self-abandonment and you say things like, why do I never get it right? Why is this so hard for me? Why do I always forget to prep these pieces? Why am I never able to field these questions? And you really start to turn against yourself and make yourself the enemy. If you want to build resilience-based confidence, you have to learn to have this feeling of incompetence and not abandon yourself. You have to be able to feel out of your depth and out of your element without feeling like you've done something wrong or you've done something bad. You have to be able to experience incompetence as a neutral experience that doesn't cause you to lose respect for yourself or go into hyper criticism of yourself. And this is what really great leaders do so beautifully. They can walk into any random room where they have no idea what's going on, and they can just come into that conversation because they're not having all of these internal experiences of collapse and self-abandonment. So the way that you build these psychological capacities is through gentle, incremental practice where you exit your comfort zone and you practice not collapsing. You practice not self-abandoning. You practice new ways of emotionally responding to the discomfort of being outside of your realm of competence. This is one of the biggest psychological capacities that I support my clients on. And in order for you to grow this, you do have to leave your comfort zone because you have to have these experiences where you are being challenged. It is uncomfortable. You are feeling a little bit unprepared or a little bit out of your element. But because you're feeling that way, you have the opportunity to practice being present, to practice not self-abandoning, to practice having the emotional strength and fortitude to navigate right through that situation. And let me tell you, when you build this ability, you will feel so effing unstoppable. The feelings that you have about yourself when you build resilience-based confidence are light years better and stronger than the feelings you have about yourself when you're building performance-based confidence. When you are building resilience-based confidence, you know that you can handle hard things. And you feel so much power that it goes beyond you just feeling it. Other people can feel it. Resilience-based confidence helps you have a bigger impact because you're not afraid to speak up and be a thought leader. Even if you don't have every single perfect answer, it helps you be much more impressive in your organization because you can calmly and confidently navigate hard questions and navigate difficult conversations. It makes you feel less anxious and afraid because you're no longer avoiding these hard situations. You know that you can handle them even if things get messy and even if you're a little bit imperfect. And you tend to get promoted much more quickly because you're being more vocal and people are really seeing the extent of your leadership capabilities. So resilience-based confidence does require real emotional work to build, but it is so worth it because the benefits that you get from doing that emotional work and exiting your comfort zone and learning to stay present and learning not to self-abandon will not only help you be on the career path of your dreams, but they will help you become the person of your dreams. They help you become a person who is confident, not because they get it right all the time, not because they have the answer every single time, not because they're 100% prepared every single time, but because they know how to stay strong and solid every single time. And I don't know about you, but when it comes to confidence, that's what I want to build. I don't want to have to be this perfect version of myself who has every answer every time. I want to be that bad bitch who's like, listen, if I don't have the answer, I am totally fine. I will still walk us through this with unwavering confidence until I and we figure it out. And the final benefit with resilience-based confidence that I want to call out is that when you have resilience-based confidence, you become a rock and a source of stability for other people because you have this ability to stay steady even when things get hard. And people who don't yet have that ability are going to turn to you for reassurance and turn to you to help them feel stable when they are outside their zone of competence. So it really helps you be a wonderful leader, a wonderful authority figure, a wonderful mentor to other people because you're not shaken when things get hard. And that's exactly who people want as their mentor and leader. If you are wanting to build this deeper level of confidence, and if you're realizing that resilience-based confidence is what you need to achieve your next level of leadership, I want to invite you to come work with me inside of my program, the Art of Speaking Up Academy. This is my signature program where I help you with two really important goals. First, I help you build deep, resilience-based confidence so you can feel solid even in rooms that used to intimidate you. And I also teach you the foundational communication skills you need to articulate your thoughts in a way that is crisp, compelling, and persuasive so that you can make a powerful impression on your boss and leaders around you when you speak. These are the two foundations that you need to rise into leadership and to have a bigger impact within your company. And these are the foundations I will help you build inside the Art of Speaking Up Academy. To make sure you don't miss enrollment for the next cohort, I strongly recommend adding yourself to the waitlist by clicking the link in the show notes or by going to jessguzikcoaching.com/academy. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.